30 seconds and counting.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Again, the biggest talk heading into this draft has been who to take at the second overall pick, whether it be Evan Mobley or Jalen Green. But the Rockets also have two other first-round picks in this year's draft at 23 and 24, and there is a plethora of prospects that we could consider taking in that range. And there is so many that we can't fit them all into one video, so we will do it going by position. We're going to start right now with the guards, and before we start, the guards are the deepest on our team as far as the amount of players that we have at that position compared to forwards and our bigs. We already have about 6 guards on the team with John Wall, Kevin Porter Jr., Eric Gordon, Armani Brooks, Kyrie Thomas, DJ Augustine, among others. And if the Rockets were to take a point guard or a combo guard in this year's draft, it would most likely be because A, we take Evan Mobley with the second overall pick, and B, they really like what these prospects have to offer and what they can bring to the team. This is just a quick disclaimer before we head into this video, because the guards are the position that we have the most of on the team right now compared to bigs and wing players. So heading right into it with the first prospect, Trey Mann, 6'5", out of Florida State, and he's been compared to Devin Harris. Trey Mann is a really smooth combo guard, a really modern guard, has a very, very sweet shooting stroke. Trey Mann with a game that really does fit the modern NBA. He's got a smooth, quick, and compact release on his jumper and is absolutely lethal from beyond the arc. He's hit over 40% of his threes during his sophomore season at Florida. He's not an elite NBA athlete, but he does have great bounce with good short area quickness and more than enough speed to hold his own among NBA defenders. He does a good job of gaining separation off the dribble and also is capable of creating his own offense off the bounce. Having grown to 6'4", he now has decent shooting and guard size. He projects as a perimeter-oriented shot maker who might be best served as a scoring guard off the bench.
And with Trey Mann, he played against some great talent by playing in a big conference at Florida, against really good defenders, really good teams. And against those teams, he still was able to average 16 points per game, 1.5 steals, 4 assists, 6 rebounds, and about 3 turnovers. But he shot it lights out. 46% from the field, 40.2% from 3, and 83% free throw shooter. He is probably one of the best shooters among guards in general in this draft class. And honestly, just his 6'5", big combo guard frame is perfect for the modern NBA. Along with his wingspan, he's able to guard these positions, and against a smaller and the same size positions, he is a great talent. But here's the problem. I feel like the Rockets would be much less likely to draft him or any of these guards per se if they were to get like Jalen Green at number 2, because with getting Jalen Green as a shooting guard, there's going to be too much depth and too much that these players, these point guards, combo guards would have to go through in order to crack the rotations. I would definitely see them drafting a big man or like a wing with these later picks.
Yeah, and with Trey Mann, what he brings to the table is absolutely tremendous as far as what he can do for a guy who's projected to go in the late first round. He has a lot of potential. And one of the things that he does really, really well is shooting and also scoring off the dribble. Trey Mann, as far as the offensive side of the ball goes, is a pretty good offensive prospect for the late first round. Again, he's a pretty good shooter, shooting 40% in college, is very capable of creating his own shot off the dribble. Not elite by any means, but he can do it. He's an adequate playmaker, and he is a pretty good rebounder for being 6'5". And he's a decent defender. Again, not elite, but he's not terrible either. He can hold his own against people at his size on the defensive side of the ball, and he is a solid athlete. And these are all things that can be improved upon once he makes the NBA. His shooting, his athleticism, these are all things that can definitely be improved once he reaches the NBA. So a lot of good upside to Trey Mann as far as what he can do on both ends of the floor and what he brings going into the draft.
And yeah, Trey Mann. With every pro, there's also some cons, but it's not too bad. He does lack like an elite first step off the dribble, which is something a lot of guards typically use to get to the basket. However, he is not exactly like a consistent volume shooter. He's a little inconsistent at times. However, he still is able to put up good percentages, and when he gets hot, he is hot. He is like prone to hoisting up like some questionable shots with the defense on his face rather than finding the open man. Probably like tries to chuck up the shot, thinking he can win the game, and this caused him to play a little wildly on offense. However, it's nothing that discipline from an NBA team and from veteran guards cannot teach. The same discipline can be applied defensively. He does tend to like zone out and lack on the defensive side at times, but again, nothing that he cannot work on, improve on with an NBA team. And lastly, not a big thing, but he did kind of underperform as a freshman, had a really great sophomore year, and that's why he declared for the draft and is coming in now. But as a freshman, didn't exactly have the best year.
Yeah, and Trey Mann, I think he was my pick for who we should take with the late first round. I've been a big advocate for Trey Mann ever since, he came around in that mock draft. We've seen him go in the 15 to 20 range. That's usually where he's going in these mock drafts, but there are situations where he does fall to us. And I think if he does fall to us, I think it's a no-brainer to take Trey Mann. For that range, a prospect like Trey Mann is a very, very good get. He fills one of our needs, and that's really what you're looking for in the late first round. Now, again, another point guard prospect out of Auburn, 6'1", Sharife Cooper. He has been compared to a bigger Tyler Ulis out of Auburn, and Sharife Cooper, I think, has a lot of these skill sets that really does fit the Houston Rockets well. A little bit undersized, but I think he can really bring a lot to the table for our team.
Right, he is a little undersized, but he's very big when it comes to like the talent. Cooper is a lightning quick and crafty ball handler and a passer with elite court vision. He is the engine that makes his team run, and he plays with great energy and effort. Truly like a great floor general. However, his small stature is a bit of a challenge at the pro level, especially on defense, but he does play with a big heart and has a knack for making plays all over the court. He is probably the best pure point guard that would be drafted in the later first round, with a great feel for spacing, for setting up his teammates, and for even taking over the game when needed. He is a winner, he's a leader, and he should be a big impact player in an NBA team. However, also his outside shot is a bit inconsistent. He will have to definitely improve on that in order to reach NBA potential. However, he's got decent mechanics and has been hitting at a very high clip.
And with Sharife Cooper, I think he will fit our team well, but the problem is we don't know if the Rockets are the best fit for Sharife. As his individual player, we don't know if the Rockets are the best team for him. That's the question mark here. Sharife Cooper for our team fits perfectly, but the situation that the Rockets are in, we don't know if that's the best situation for Sharife Cooper. He did average 20 points per game, 8 assists, and 4.3 rebounds and a steal a game, but he averaged 4 turnovers a game in college, and that's not good. That is pretty problematic, especially when he's a 6'1" point guard. That high of an assist-to-turnover ratio isn't good at all. He shot 39% from the field, 22% from 3, and 83% from the line. So not efficient, but again, these are all things that can be developed, that can be worked on once he makes it into the NBA. He's listed as 6'1" with not a lot of vertical athleticism or longer wingspan to defend bigger guards at his position, which while we've seen players overwork that before, being small while still not being terrible on the defensive side of the ball, we've seen Chris Paul be steal champions using his IQ. But again, high IQ Chris Paul, one of a kind with that. But again, it should goes to show that while being 6'1" is a very, very big hindrance, it's not something that is impossible to overwork and become a plus defender.
Now, if we want to talk about the upside to Sharife's game, he is a solid scorer off the dribble. He is a tremendous free throw generator. He knows how to get to the rim and how to get fouled, and by having his small frame, ever able to contort his body and get defenders to hit him in order to get to the line. He is a fairly good playmaker and actually a decent rebounder for his size, and he is an adequate defender. He plays with a lot of heart on the defensive side of the ball, and he's a decent athlete. He doesn't have a crazy high vertical or crazy athleticism, but he is a decent athlete.
And with Sharife Cooper, again, he does have some pros, despite, his counting stats weren't looking good at all, but he does have pros. But there are a lot of things that he does need to work on if he really wants to, elevate to the next level. He wants to stay in the league. He's going to have to improve his outside shot. Shooting just 22% from three for a point guard, it's not great. Again, we've seen just how ruthlessly teams are exploiting players who can't shoot in the playoffs with Russell Westbrook, Ben Simmons, Giannis Antetokounmpo. We've seen all these guys get exploited big time because of their lack of ability to shoot. And unless Sharife Cooper can develop his three-point shot into a point where he can be a respectable shooter, he's going to get the same treatment. And that is probably the biggest thing that he's going to have to improve on if he really wants to take the next step in the NBA. He can play a little bit wild on offense and, kind of just getting into his own head a little bit and just going out of control in his offensive play instead of, just being calm and sort of setting the flow for the offense and setting the pace. He kind of plays to other people's pace. He doesn't really control the pace of the game that well. He can be a little bit careless on offense, which does lead to the 4.2 turnovers that he had per game. He is not great at guarding taller players, being just 6'1", even if he goes up against a taller point guard. Like, for example, we've seen so many taller point guards in this league. I mean, Russell Westbrook is around 6'3", even our own John Wall, 6'4", and then of course you have all of the Luka Doncic's and Cade Cunninghams of the world who are 6'7", 6'8" point guards, and this is going to be an absolute nightmare to try to guard those people for him. And he is undersized for his position. Again, 6'1" for a point guard isn't terrible, but it is still below average when you have most of the point guards in the league right now being around 6'3", 6'4", 6'2", with Kyrie Irving, John Wall, Damian Lillard, Steph Curry, and those guys. He is a little bit undersized at his position, even though he is 6'1", which isn't terrible for a point guard, but it is still below average. Now, moving on to the next point guard and the final point guard that we'll be looking at in this year's draft is Jared Butler, who is 6'3" out of Baylor University, and he has been compared to a better version of George Hill. He's a combo guard who can play on and off the ball and is a very, very well-grounded player. He's contributing in all aspects of the game. He can create offense with or without the ball in his hands, and he can play on the wing or sit in the corner and space the floor. He's got a very strong upper body and can be NBA ready from day one as far as a physical standpoint and the maturity in his game. He's a very good decision maker and also plays to a team-first mentality and plays to win games. Jared Butler has also gotten more and more consistent and efficient over his years in college, and he is nearly hitting 49% from the field and 43% from the three this season. His assist numbers are up to 4.8, and scoring is up to 17 points a game. Butler is a three-level scorer. He can get a bucket from anywhere. He can hit the three off the catch or off the dribble, and he's also got a nice mid-range game. His strength helps him finish through contact, and he is a creative finisher, although he doesn't have the best bounce compared to the other point guards in this draft.
Right, and Jared Butler, when you hear all of that, sounds like just amazing guy, and people honestly wonder why he shouldn't just go higher towards the end of the lottery. But here's where it gets difficult. Teams are still in a wait and see mode on Butler, who has to be cleared after the NBA red flagged a heart condition that was discovered during his college recruitment. So before entering college, he had a heart condition that was discovered. However, he did play the 3 seasons at Baylor without any issues. However, there is still no clearance for him at the draft, and that does create a little bit of risk that a lot of teams would want to avoid. But if you hopefully if everything goes well and his heart works out, he is a tremendous prospect. He averaged 16.7 points per game, 3.3 rebounds, 4.8 assists, 2.2 steals, and about 2.8 turnovers. However, he shot the ball exceptionally well, 47% from the field, 43% from three, and 78% from the free throw line. And Jared Butler, he knows how to step up. He was able to lead his team to to the championship game and played big in that game to win over Jalen Suggs and Gonzaga. He's just a tremendous prospect, and I am very high on him as for the Rockets if he were to come. But again, due to his heart condition, a lot of teams are a bit iffy on him.
Again, with Jared Butler, I think that last point that DJ just mentioned with his ability to step up in big games, that's something that we've been missing for a while. Again, we've seen for the past few years countless times where, we're going into this big game 7, game 6 elimination games, and you just don't get that contribution, right? You don't get that elevating performance. It's been one of the biggest grievances that we've been listing on James Harden is his inability to elevate in big games. Jared Butler is a guy who does elevate in big games. Like you said, Jared Butler was a part of that Baylor championship team that also included top 10 pick Damian Mitchell. And he elevated and was one of the best players in that game and one of the key contributing factors to Baylor pulling off the upset victory. If you remember that championship game, pretty much everyone had Gonzaga winning. But Jared Butler stepped up in that game and helped his team win. And that's something that can also translate to the NBA level. This is a guy who really does want to win at all costs. This is a guy who is a natural winner. He's a guy who really does want to win and win big. And that type of mentality is absolutely critical for a guy who's looking to come into the NBA. And it's one of the biggest promising signs that you can get out of a prospect as far as judging just how good they can be. If a guy wants to win and win bad, he is going to be great. He's going to work hard to get to that level, and Jared Butler is one of those guys, and that's why he's so highly looked on as far as prospects in this range. He has that really killer instinct to win and win big. Now, looking at some of his pros, he is a very, very good shooter, especially from beyond the three-point line. Again, like we said earlier, he's shooting 43% from beyond the arc, one of the best percentages out of all the prospects in this year's draft. He's a crafty scorer off the dribble, and he also excels at scoring off the ball. So whether he has the ball in his hands or doesn't have it in his hands, he's still very, very good and can be effective on the offensive side of the ball. He's a prolific scorer. He's also a solid playmaker and an adequate rebounder for his 6'3" height. He's a solid defender and also has solid athleticism. A complete package in Jared Butler. And again, Jared Butler, if it wasn't for his heart condition, I think he would be one of the more highly rated prospects in this year's draft.
Right, and again, that's one of his cons, but he doesn't have too many cons. That's the thing. He does also lack a little bit of an elite first step, similarly how Trey Mann did. However, that doesn't really matter as he is a very crafty scorer off the dribble. He knows how to, get space between him and his defender. He also can be too scoring focused when it comes to offense. Like Jared Butler is a great defender, and at times when he knows he's struggling, he still wants to, get out of that slump, but he just needs to realize that he can still contribute to the games in other ways. And again, through veteran and, team discipline, that's something that can definitely be addressed. He can be a little careless on offense, which does lead to turnovers, but, that's every point guard at this point. And he can be a little undisciplined defensively. Same things with the other point guards mentioned in earlier, just things that can be improved on with pretty much any team and any veteran presence. And a lot of people are also a little concerned about the fact that he's not a true point guard. He is more of a undersized 2, similar to how Colin Sexton and Donovan Mitchell played. They're about 6'3", 6'2", I believe, and they play the 2. But Jared Butler can develop into a point guard. However, he does also play the 2. He's probably more of a combo guard than he is a point guard, but that's just him.
And again, Jared Butler also brings so much to the table, and all three of these guys bring so much to the table. There really isn't someone you can go wrong with out of these three. At least I don't think so. As far as my preference, I would personally go with Trey Mann and then probably Jared Butler. Those are probably my two favorites. Sharife Cooper, because of his inefficiency, I'm not that high on him. He is more of a raw prospect. I'm more on either the Butler or Trey Mann. Out of those two, I'll have to give Trey Mann the slight edge. But again, all three of these guys bring a lot to the table that is very, very promising. But personally, Trey Mann is my personal pick with Jared Butler in a close second. And DJ, who do you think is the best player out of these 3 point guards?
I'm actually going to go the opposite with you. I'm actually a little bit higher on Jared Butler because of the fact that he is a little bit of a better athlete and a better defender than Trey Mann is coming to the game. He isn't as tall as Trey Mann, but he can still do pretty much the same things. And I feel like him being a little bit more of an off-ball player is something that the Rockets need. With Kevin Porter Jr. running our offense, Jared Butler has been playing great off-ball in his collegiate career, so he knows what to do. And I feel like next to Kevin Porter Jr. or just like off the bench with whoever's running the offense, like DJ Augustine or whoever point guard there is, Jared Butler would definitely just be able to fit right in and play off ball. And yeah, but I have Trey Mann second, and I think I'm gonna take Sharife Cooper third because I'm not a guy who's high on people who are very short. If he's not short, he's 6'1", but compared to NBA prospects, or to NBA point guards, that is a little below average.
And again, I think with all three of these guys, they all bring something to the table. And as far as comparing Trey Mann and Jared Butler, I don't think you can go wrong with either one. Again, Trey Mann, Jared Butler, both of these guys bring things to the table that can fit us. And they both have very high potential if they're put in a situation that they can reach it in. And if Jared Butler can, avoid complications with his heart condition, I think he's going to be a very, very good prospect. And as far as Trey Mann, he has his own set of downsides that if he can dodge them, he also has a super, super high upside. And again, like we said earlier, these are all three point guards. There are 4 other positions left that will be coming up over the next few weeks as we, round up and hype up for the draft. And so stay tuned for that. Again, these were the point guards. Comment down below if there were any point guards that we missed that you think we should cover. And, we'll talk about it there. And as always, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. And we will see you in the next one. I'm Joel, and I'm joined here today by DJ. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the